You are crazy to think that you can make a difference with handwritten letters. Really? You think handwritten notes with a bunch of colorful doodles can create impact? They look nice, Pooja. They only look nice. They don't really inspire change. These were most of the encouragement that I received from those around me when in 2015 I got simply irked at the sheer indifference, unawareness, and numbness to the then highly televised Syrian war and refugee crisis, and I set out on a mission to spread smiles and joy to refugee children by gifting them handwritten letters of love. As audacious as that sounds today, cut to 6 years later, Letters of Love, which I then shabbily and hastily called it, is now an international youth-led nonprofit that provides psychosocial support to refugee children, tens of thousands of them, through art, dance, music, sports, and also raises a global citizenry of change makers. We've spread joy to more than 50,000 Syrian, Iraqi, Yazidi, Palestinian, South Sudanese, Rohingya, and Afghan refugee children, and at the peak of the pandemic, amidst severe lockdowns, we've managed to deliver handwritten notes of gratitude to more than 10,000 frontline workers around the world. We've been managing to spread joy and inspire empathy through letters, colors, music, dance, experiences, art. There are days when, along with my critiques and my cheerleaders, I stand dumbfounded at the impact art has managed to create through Letters of Love. It makes me ponder where the idea even came from. I ask myself, when was the first time art inspired you, Pooja? When I think of art, the very first image that rushes into my mind is the classic one of two triangular mountains, a sun setting in the middle with its long and short rays arranged symmetrically around each other, with a few coconut trees, two or three shrubs, a stream running by, a house with two windows and just one door, and a flock of birds flying into oblivion. But when I think of art a little deeper than that very stereotypical image, I'm often overcome by memories of experiences rather than just the outputs of it. Those feelings when, just as a child, for the first time ever, I experienced wonder in my grandmom's stories, solace in my dad's lullabies, comfort in my mom's letters, fascination in science labs, identity in my culture, safety in my journaling, and sheer freedom in my dancing. Art, which I define as an experience, be it through visual art, photography, dancing, anything that stimulates one's thoughts and beliefs through the senses, was everywhere. And in fact, art made it better, more meaningful, more inclusive, and more impactful. At that point of reflection, art for me ceased being a noun. Art is also a verb. Art became my instrument to process data to elicit a response. Art simply became my way of life. So when I tapped into the art of letter writing to sort of shake the apathy in people, it came as no surprise. But what was truly a surprise were my learnings from mobilizing teams, from fieldwork, from community building, and scaling Letters of Love from a mere Facebook page to a global movement. The learnings that brought me to my conclusion that art can indeed influence impact. I map the perforation of the effect of art down to a very linear progression of impact across three spheres. In my humble work with children across the spectrum of race, religion, region, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, especially in the context of refugee and migrant population over the last 5 years, I've noticed that it all starts at an individual level. Children are naturally curious beings. From the minute they gain control of their limbs, they just put themselves out there into the world just to see how it all works. They explore, observe, and imitate, trying to figure out how things operate and how to control themselves and their environments. This unrestricted exploration is what I call free play, and art is the most natural activity that supports free play in children. Art refines their motor skills, cognitive development, analytical skills, communication skills, decision making, cultural awareness, all of which enhances the personal development of the child. For the children and young adults, especially hailing from vulnerable and disadvantaged communities, having access to a creative outlet helps relieve stress and channel their curiosity and energy into something very productive. At such an elevated personal state, the impact of art now perforates into the interpersonal sphere. Art plays a huge role in how we interact with those around us and form connections. Art teaches children to not only tolerate differences, but also celebrate them. At this state, we now have microcosms of art-inspired, wholesome interpersonal relationships, which, when you zoom out to a large scale, is a network of connected synergistic connections. A community. Art can help transform a community both physically with tangible resources such as art installations, cultural events, sculptures, etc., and also internally through empowering each other with an increased sense of pride and belonging and also identity. Art is heralded as a panacea for various issues affecting communities and is very fundamental to reviving refugee and other vulnerable communities. And this truth is what I'm basing my life's work on. The transversal learning across the individual, interpersonal, and community spheres is that art can indeed influence impact. And therefore, art must be more consciously embedded into all walks of life. In a time when thorough scientific evidence and statistical data fail to inspire people to act, art will. There are a myriad of examples of efficacy in social change initiatives that incorporate the arts in making significant contributions to contemporary challenges such as climate change, racial injustice, inequities, polarization, and unresolved legacies of conflict and violence. Google will spit them all out for you in a simple search, but allow me to share what I have witnessed firsthand. Let's talk about well-being. I always knew social media was a data game, a dangerous data game, but what really opened my eyes to the consequences of it was the docudrama on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, post which I have been regulating my presence and activity on social media. Let's talk about democracy and civic engagement. Living in India in a time like this, I have personally been myself a participant at various protests where music, dance, art, and theater impart character and purpose and help organize a lot of resistance effectively and informatively. Let's talk about hope, my favorite. At Seeds of Peace Summer Camp, where I work in the capacity of a counselor, I have used dance as a medium for dialogue, dissent, and collaboration between teenagers from conflict countries such as Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, India, and Pakistan. And I have seen over and over how art inspires humanity even in the most testing times of conflict. Art makes these young teenagers, these young adults, such better leaders. Let's talk about inspiration. In my own life, with respect to letters of love. In 2015, the time when the Syrian war and the refugee crisis peaked, there were n number of reports, articles, etc. out there about the matter, but nothing really affected me as much as the Humans of New York's series about refugees. Brandon's storytelling made me so uncomfortable that it thrusted me out of my numbness and inspired me to act, as a result of which Letters of Love was born. Let's talk about cross-pollination, another favorite. I also work with Community Arts Network, an Austrian-based global network that empowers, engages, and enables all players within the arts for social impact sector. We recently hosted the Arts for Climate Learning Lab, where we gathered two groups of more than 30 experts, a diverse cohort of artists, educators, policymakers, business executives, philanthropists, and leaders. We explored some of the most pertinent questions around climate change, and after 10 hours of dialogue and discussion, we now have meaningful insights, foundations for an alternate approach, and a few action plans laid out. And this has been one of the most fascinating professional experiences for me, where unlikely allies, all of them experts in their respective fields, came together to advocate and boost the role of arts in fighting major challenges crippling our planet. You now see I have witnessed firsthand, experienced, and facilitated the catalytic power of the arts, which is also why I very humbly admit that, of course, art is not in any kind of solution in itself. It needs to be paired with equally relevant and important capacities like logical thinking, scientific rigor, or business acumen to make a real tangible impact. Arts is indeed transformative and is currently undervalued, which, if included, could make significant contributions to humanity's efforts in overcoming even the largest of our challenges. But why art, though? What makes the arts so special? Arts have a unique role, a timely opportunity, transformative power, and hence an enormous responsibility. Various rigorous researches have been conducted based on academia, policy, and practice that investigates the arts qualities. And one such report, commissioned by a Community Arts Network, which is still a work in progress, shines light upon the 9 distinctive characteristics of ethical engagement through the arts. In a nutshell, the qualities of arts are that it engages with beauty, invokes and invites agency, negotiates with ambiguity, nuance, and uncertainty, embraces paradox and contradiction, and mediates competing narratives. It embraces interdependence, affirms human dignity, encourages holistic development, celebrates creativity, and it fosters honesty. So you see, there is enough evidence, both scientific, statistical, and experiential, for me to say out loud that art is not merely a decoration or a source of entertainment. There is, in fact, a clear distinction between art and entertainment. Art is, of course, not the opposite of entertainment. What distinguishes entertainment is that it happens within what we already know. Whatever our response, be it happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, anything, the realm of entertainment says, yes, the world is the way you think it is. And that feels great to have highly skilled people go to great lengths to confirm my sense of the way things are. I will pay big money for that. What distinguishes art from this, though, is that it happens outside of what we already know. Inherent in the artistic experience is this amazing human capacity to expand our sense of the way the world is or might be, to expand to a completely different horizon of the possible, of what it could be. The arts lie in this amazing universal human capacity, not in the thing that you're looking at. Let me reiterate, art lives in the verbs and not in the nouns. Art is an imperative. Look at us. We now find ourselves at a civilizational crossroads with major global interconnected intersectional challenges. And to top it all, let me also address the elephant in the room, the pandemic. A study carried out by FAS Research in 2015 with 2,075 community arts organizations across 92 countries established that we continuously go through cycles of growth and realization of our potentials, interrupted by crises, followed by cycles where our potential regenerates and enables us to explore new opportunities to re-enter the cycle of growth again. In our ever more fragmented world, individuals and institutions struggle to bounce back to a period of regeneration after a crisis. Ergo, it is imperative to provide spaces of renewal and rejuvenation, and community arts has a crucial role to play right here, right now. Arts have the power to change minds, motivate and provoke meaningful discussion and action. These actions can be of any form. It could be of petitions, demonstrations, protests, fundraisers, events, policy changes, new laws, anything, creating not just a cultural shift, but also measurable impact. I now want to leave you with a dose of my interpretation of art by echoing the famous Swedish filmmaker Ingmar Bergman's words. I don't want to produce a work of art that the public can sit and suck aesthetically. I want to give them a blow in the small of the back, to scorch their indifference, to startle them out of their complacency. Aside the numerous ways in which art impacts individuals, institutions, mindsets, and policies outwardly, what art means to me inwardly is by being an instigator, pushing myself, those around me, and communities at large to act, to hope, to persevere, and to create. A better tomorrow is right round the corner. Let's work towards it artfully. Thank you.